I'll be honest with you, I never thought my own front gate would turn into the opening scene of a bad movie. But that's exactly what it felt like. One Tuesday afternoon, out of nowhere, a charter bus and 3 vans rolled up to my ranch like some suburban invasion force. People started piling out, kids with beach balls, dads with coolers, moms snapping open folding chairs, like they just pulled into a public park instead of my pasture. I stood there holding a feed bucket, blinking at 60 strangers spreading across my land like it belonged to them. And then I heard it, that sharp voice cutting through the air. The community has claimed this space. At first I thought it was a joke, maybe some weird prank, but no. There she was, a woman in a crisp polo shirt with an ID badge swinging from her neck, clipboard in hand like she was running a music festival. She marched around barking orders. Tables by the fence line, food stations at the gate, park in the east pasture. Like she'd done this 100 times before. That's when my stomach dropped, because the east pasture is where my calves graze, and those little guys were teething, vulnerable to every germ tracked in by muddy boots. I finally walked up, trying to keep my voice calm even though my pulse was pounding. "Excuse me," I said, "but this is my land. What exactly is going on here?" She barely glanced up, waved her clipboard like a badge of authority, and said, "The neighborhood association has designated this area for overflow events." I swear I almost laughed, because the audacity was so unreal. Designated? I've owned this ranch 15 years. Bought it with my own hands, built every fence, fought through droughts. There's no designation here, it's mine. She gave me this look, like I was a kid who didn't understand math, and said, "Individual ownership doesn't override collective expansion. Housing values rise when neighbors obey the board." That line hit me like a slap. Collective expansion? On my soil. I looked around at 60 strangers stomping my grass flat, dust rising, animals pacing nervously in the corners, and I felt my blood boil. So I did the only thing I could think of. While she was busy bossing people around, I walked over to the breaker box and flipped every switch. Instantly the music cut off, the catering equipment died. The air turned silent except for a few confused murmurs. For the first time, people started looking around like, "Wait a second. Are we even supposed to be here?" The clipboard queen spun on me, face red. "You can't do that," she snapped. "This is an official neighborhood gathering." I just smiled, even though my chest was pounding, and said, "On my land, using my power, without my permission? Yeah, I absolutely can." That little stunt cracked the perfect picture she'd painted. Parents started tugging kids back from the animal pens, whispers spread. Did we just trespass? Did she lie to us? For a moment I thought I had the upper hand. But then she pulled out her phone, propped it on a tripod, and her whole demeanor changed. Suddenly she was sugar sweet, smiling into a live stream. "Look at these cheerful faces," she chirped, "neighbors enjoying the ranch spirit. Mason here wouldn't ruin a family broadcast, would he?" My name rolled off her tongue like venom dressed in honey. And I'll admit, for a split second I wavered, because she made me look like the villain just for standing my ground. But then I saw my calves huddled in the far corner of their pen, trembling from the chaos, and I remembered exactly why I had to fight. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. When Deputy Harris arrived, calm and professional, I could have hugged him. He asked her for permits, and she whipped out her folder like it was the 10 Commandments. He flipped through, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Ma'am, these are HOA memos, not legal documents. HOA authority ends at the boundary line. Period." You should have seen the look on her face. It was the first crack in her armor. But she wasn't finished. Within an hour, 5 more HOA board members showed up, waving clipboards, forming a wall of paper around me like bureaucratic bullies. They spewed lines like, "Ownership isn't absolute. You have obligations to the greater good, and you're harming neighbor interests by being selfish." They actually tried to box me in on my own porch with fake citations and fabricated fees. I felt like a kid cornered by schoolyard bullies. Except now the stakes were my livelihood. That's when the county health inspector, Ellen, arrived. And she didn't play. Clipboard, camera, boots still dusty from another ranch, and zero patience for HOA theatrics. "I'm here to assess livestock health violations," she said flatly, brushing right past their chatter. She documented everything. The contaminated soil, food set up near water sources, no disinfection trays. And just like that, The HOA's house of cards started collapsing. But the knockout punch didn't come from her. It came from one of their own. Sarah, the board secretary, slipped me her phone, hands shaking. On the screen were months of group chats titled Land Acquisition Timeline. Detailed phases, fake permits, even my name with notes about my income and family status. Like they'd studied me, planned this, and decided I couldn't fight back. It wasn't just arrogance, it was a conspiracy. When Ellen saw the files, and when the deputy realized this wasn't the first time these people had pulled something like this, the whole game changed. Residents who'd been setting up tables started filming with their own phones. The crowd turned. And the clipboard queen, well, she snapped. 1 second she was crying on live stream, begging for sympathy. The next she was screaming about how property rights are a capitalist conspiracy, and how collective planning is the future. She tore up papers, accused me of being anti-neighbor, even tried to blackmail Ellen, the inspector, right there in front of everyone. Ellen just stared at her, ice cold, and said, "Ma'am, you just attempted to bribe a county official. That's a felony." The meltdown was spectacular, like watching a mask shatter in slow motion. Neighbors who had followed her blindly were now backing away, muttering, "We can't be part of this." Parents hurried kids into cars, volunteers abandoned catering gear, board members started distancing themselves as phones recorded every word. The so-called leader stood screaming in a field of half-folded tables, her empire of paper collapsing around her. In the end, she got slapped with citations, stripped of her position, and dragged into investigations that would follow her for years. My land was safe, my animals were safe, and for the first time in hours I could actually breathe. But I'll be honest, the victory didn't feel like fireworks. It felt quiet, heavy, like the weight of knowing you just fought off something bigger than yourself. Now here's the part where I hand it over to you. Because I've told this story a dozen times and people always split down the middle. Some say I was right to stand firm. Others say I should have compromised. Let the neighbors have their fun. So tell me what you think. If 60 people showed up in your yard claiming the community has designated this space, would you flip the breaker and call the cops, or would you let it slide? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this story with someone who's ever dealt with HOA nonsense. And don't forget to hit like if you think standing your ground still matters. Because me? I learned one thing that day. Good neighbors respect boundaries, but great neighbors help protect them.